Hi, I'm Alex from Jenson USA, and I'm here to talk to you about pedals and why the installation process is so important. It's actually pretty easy to mess up if you're not paying attention, and it can cost you a lot of money if you're not careful. So let's go through it. So the first step when you open your package is, if you're buying new pedals, they should be labeled from the factory. So you're going to see right and left. This is important to pay attention. A lot of people get excited, they rip it out of the package, and then they can't tell which pedal's which. Now some pedals will have actual marker saying left or right on the pedals. In this case, I don't see anything that's super obvious, so I'm going to look at the threads. And that's going to be the next part that we're looking at, is which way do the pedals go on, because they're both threaded differently. There's a few different ways that you can tell which pedal's which. In this case, a lot of pedals have a chamfer to them. So if you're looking at the leading edge, this one is facing down. So if you catch rocks, they'll deflect. So you're gonna know that you want that facing forward on the bike. So you can tell that this one is the right pedal. So here you got your leading edge that's gonna be facing forward. And you know that because if you're gonna hit rocks, it's gonna slide off the bottom like that. Another way you can tell which pedal goes on which side, if you can't tell by the profile of the pedal, you can also look at the threads. So a lot of people know one of the pedals is reverse threaded, but it's hard to remember which one. An easy way to not have to think about that is when you're looking from the top of the bike, you're gonna know when you're installing the pedals, you're always turning forward. So you should never be turning back towards the bike when you're tightening the pedals on. You're always gonna make sure that it's the same rotation that your wheels are going, everything's going forward. So when it comes to actually installing the pedals, the first thing you're gonna wanna check is if your pedals come with washers or not. If your pedals do come with washers, you're probably gonna wanna use them, but check for instructions that come with your pedals to see if they specify using with different cranks or whatnot. Okay, so if your pedals come with a washer, you're gonna wanna make sure you put the washers on before you install them. You're also gonna wanna make sure that if your pedals are used like these ones, make sure these threads are clean. You don't want dirt getting in there. That's how things end up getting chewed up, falling out, all kinds of nonsense. So you wanna make sure everything's clean. Make sure you use these pedal washers if they're provided, and you'll be good to go. So depending on the type of pedals that you got, you're either gonna use a pedal wrench or you're gonna use an Allen, like this foundation one that we got here. So now that we got everything, we're ready to go. We're gonna use our forward method of always threading forward. Make sure that you're very light with this threading in. If it's binding up at all, stop and back it out, because you don't wanna cross thread it. If you end up cross threading it, you're gonna have a bad time, and it could cost you a lot of money because you may end up having to replace your cranks. So you wanna make sure everything goes in easy by hand. And then when you're at the end, you're just gonna give it a little torque. You don't need anything crazy. Make sure if you're installing these at home that you put a little bit of grease on the threads. That way you know when it's cinched down, it's gonna stay down, and it's gonna be easy to get off. So now that we got the right pedal installed, we're gonna go on ahead and install the left pedal. It's the same process, remember. We're always gonna be rotating forward no matter which pedal it is. That way you don't have to remember which one's reverse threaded. You're just always rotating forward. And again, you're gonna wanna make sure it's threading in smoothly. If it's binding up, back out immediately. Don't try to force it. And that'll make sure you have an easy install, and there we go. All right, so now that we got the pedals installed, we're gonna do a quick overview of the things you need to remember to make this process easier. First thing is, when you take the pedals out of the packaging, you wanna check to make sure which side is which. Second, you wanna make sure if there's washers included that you use them, or at least check the instructions to see what they say. And the third thing is, you wanna use grease. Make sure that you get your pedals on smooth, make sure they come off easy. And you also wanna make sure that you're rotating the pedals forward when you're installing them. So, uninstallation is usually pretty easy as long as you put grease or anti-seize in the threads when you install the pedals. But basically you're just gonna do the opposite of what you did when you installed them. So, you're gonna make sure that you're pulling up towards the frame. So you're spinning backwards instead of forward. And make sure you have a good grip on this. If you're not careful, you can whack your knuckles. That's not a very fun experience. But it's as easy as that. Now the pedals are loose. And that's why it's important to put grease on these threads, because they can tighten up over time and they can be a real struggle to get off. And there you go. So hopefully these tips helped you out and you have everything you need to know to have an easy install. Hopefully you don't end up having issues installing your pedals, costing a lot of money, getting things cross-threaded and stuck. So that about covers it. Hopefully I gave you all the tips that you need to have an easy install. We appreciate you guys watching these how-to videos, and as always, keep pedaling.